Hello everyone and welcome to UKIO. My name's Namanjot Anderson and I'm joined by fellow host Joe McNamara.
Hi everyone.
So we've got a lovely new guest with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself please?
Sure thing. My name's Alexandra Hammond and I lead on sustainable procurement for the NHS.
So it sounds a very fancy title. What does it actually mean?
So my team and I are responsible for delivering a commitment that was made actually back in 2020. NHS England published the Decarbonising the NHS report, and in that report we said that we would, by the end of the decade, no longer work with suppliers who are not aligned to or more ambitious than our net zero goals. So when I joined in 2021, we had that big statement, but we needed to sort of put the how-to attached to that.
The challenging bit.
Yeah, exactly. And so we put together we did a lot of thinking about how we were going to make this happen and what was going to work, and we realized that we needed to sort of take our supply chain and the NHS more generally on a bit of a journey. So we set out a roadmap, the NHS Net Zero Supplier Roadmap, that we published in 2021 that kind of gets us on that journey. So brings suppliers along, doesn't ask them to be perfect from day one.
Yeah.
It's all about sort of helping our huge supply chain, because the NHS does have the most complex and gigantic supply chain, to get on that sort of decarbonization journey. So that's what my team does. We set the sort of framework for that to happen across the NHS.
On a personal level, why are you invested in this?
Oh my goodness. Well, so I joined the NHS in 2009 at Guy's and St Thomas's as their sustainability lead, and essentially sustainability was started off for me as kind of a personal passion. I didn't see it necessarily as a career opportunity when I was younger, but I'd sort of shoehorned my career into a sustainable one in the early years. And then when I joined Guy's and St Thomas's, it was really my first interaction in a big way with the NHS. I'd moved to the UK in 2005, but I've been a student and I was young and healthy. I didn't need much intervention with the NHS, but I got to know what a special institution it is through that first role of mine. I did a lot of I just had so much exposure. It was so great. You know, a lot of teams would just sort of take me in. I'd shadow them for a day. I'd spend time in clinical settings and non-clinical settings. I got to see the back, the sort of behind the closed doors of a hospital, working in the sort of estates and facilities team, but also just got to be, really understand sort of the patient experience. And for me, it brought together two really, it sort of developed a passion for the health service in me in those first few years, but also it brought together my sort of passion for making the world a better place and having a positive impact. And so, I felt really privileged to have that leadership role on sustainability at Guy's and St Thomas's, which is a big organization. And that was wonderful. And then I was able to sort of work across lots of different health organizations over the next few years. When I got this job, I suddenly had this realization that, the work that my team and I do has the potential to influence the largest, most complex supply chain in the world.
Yeah.
And that potential impact, that potential benefit we can deliver through our work is just the most motivating thing for me. It really, it gets me up in the morning, and not only that purpose and that impact that we can deliver has attracted brilliant people into my team. So I've managed to recruit and retain a team of people that I just love working with, because they share my passion. They bring new passions. And so my job is more than a job. Definitely more than a job. It's something that's really
What makes you passionate? Because everyone knows about global warming. Everyone knows about trying to reduce the impact on the planet. But what makes you so passionate and care so much about making this change?
Well, I mean, there's lots of ways to answer that question, right? I think one is naturally, a curiosity in me was sparked very young about the environment. I grew up in California. We have very little water in California, and when I was young, very young, we had a big drought, and it sort of sparked something in me that was, I didn't know about climate change at the time. I didn't really understand resource scarcity. I just knew we didn't have enough water, and we had to capture the water that we used in the showers and baths, and we used that to flush toilets or water the plants, that kind of thing. And something about that experience really ignited something in me about, making, every time I do something, I or go somewhere or have the opportunity to, I try to make sure that I do something positive in kind of, and leave something just a little bit better than the way I left it. So that's something that is sort of inherently in me. I mean, the other point, and I think many people share this maybe anxiety, is I have children, and I look at what the future holds for them. I'm a global citizen. I'm an American, not originally, but I've lived in the UK. I've lived in Europe. I've lived and traveled a lot of other places, and I'm just so conscious that we are on a path that is not a sustainable one is kind of an understatement, but it's potentially a path to disaster, and that's a really frightening prospect. And that's why the job matters, because it's very, very disempowering, climate change a lot of the time, right? It feels like there's nothing you can do to make a difference. But my job, the work that we do in the NHS, has the potential to make a difference, and that's really motivating.
So you spoke here at UKIO.
I sure did, yeah.
Could you talk us through your main points?
Yeah, sure. So I talked, I was in the plenary session this morning, which was really interesting. So I was joined by Simon Lambrakos, who's a Chief Sustainability Officer, Clinical Fellow, working in Getting It Right First Time, and also Dr. Rob. But, these two are clinicians understanding the sort of the intricacies of radiography, of medical physics, and so on. So my role in the discussion this morning was really to sort of set the framework, the agenda, the ambition, and try to make sure that we talk through our, set the scene and the framework for what we're trying to do. I think one of the things that I'm conscious of in my job is that I work on a national scale. My team is responsible for the whole supply chain of the NHS. You can get kind of lost in that world. And what I really enjoyed about the presentation this morning was the opportunity to interact and engage with this industry, the radiography industry, and the questions was the best part of the whole plenary session. So my talk was about the NHS supplier roadmap, the importance of social value in procurements. It was about a lot of things that are fundamental to getting us on the road and getting our supply chain moving in the right direction. Yeah. But what got really interesting was when we started having questions from the audience, when they were, we had people from the Gambia ask questions about how we can share our knowledge and information. We had questions about sort of, I'm not a big decision maker. I'm relatively junior in my team. What can I do to make a difference? That isn't gonna, that I don't need to sort of have approved and signed off by the powers that be. And so it was a really nice discussion at the end. And Dr. Emma Hyde was a brilliant chairwoman for the session as well, because she also has a passion for sustainability, and that really shone through, which I think was exciting for us to see. It's something that this industry is really grasping.
What would you love all healthcare professionals to know about sustainability?
That they can do something about it. That they have such an opportunity. We hear a lot about. There was one woman who asked a question, and she's doing a brilliant piece of work, looking at well-being and health, and how to make sure that patients have space for well-being when they come in for their appointments. And she said that this is just a small project, it's a drop in the ocean. It's not a small project. She's doing something, and so each and every one of us, we are we have 1.5 million people working in the NHS. If we all take action, we have a huge opportunity for change. So, I think we have to be dynamic. We have to be thinking about doing things differently. That is the way that our that the NHS must move. And as part of that, we really need to make sure that we are, saying what is it that we can do? What can we change? Challenge clinical practice. Challenge the status quo and say, is this the right way to be doing that? And if not, let's be okay with changing it for the better.
Amazing.
Thanks so much for coming on. I feel like we need to do a proper episode. Grill you a bit more.
Well, I loved it. I love it, and it's really great to be one with you guys, and I feel very privileged myself. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.